Frogmonster was released on April 2nd, 2024 by solo developer Ben Youngworth. The biggest fanfare the game has gotten was in a couple reviews from the past year and an Iron Pineapple video with 2.5 million views. Yet, anyone in my internet death matrix hasn't talked about it or hasn't even heard anything about it. I think it's an amazing game, and with less than 500 total reviews on Steam, that's kinda sad. It's worse when you know that even more free post-game content has been released in the past year. I think it's my due diligence as an unverified YouTuber with 100 subscribers, thank you all so much, to talk about how great this game is. Like my last video, I also want to use it as a jumping off point for another one of my soapbox moments. Today, I want to talk about how we can use genres to help define instead of exclude. The game begins by selecting your difficulty. I recommend Classic to everyone, but if you find yourself struggling, you can always switch. Your playtime begins as you are literally just born. This bird creature in front of you is named Melora, and she just made you. Things are complicated right now, and she has very little time to explain what in the world is going on here, so she tries to give you a quick preamble before turning you loose in this cozy voxel world. The original creator of the world was Orcus. He used a magic fruit to plant a tree that gave life to the world. The tree dropped 2 eggs that hatched her and Rooney. Orcus left, and Rooney started making a whole bunch of monsters. Rooney then locked Melora away, and she used one of the fruits from the original tree to make you as her last hope, some sort of frog-like monster. With that, she pieces out to go help people back in the city. The Lost Woods acts as your tutorial. The first ability you can get is your tongue, which is how you interact with the world aside from direct violence with your gun. It helps you flip levers to open doors, activate save flowers, and out of sheer curiosity, you're likely to try and lick just about everything in your vicinity, including the other little frogs and bugs around you, which opens up the bug system. This is like the charm system from Hollow Knight, except instead of paying for charms, you look around for little critters on the ground or in the air to feast on, rewarding thorough exploration and keeping your eyes peeled. Beyond this, once you get to your first combat encounter, you're likely to understand the arena-style combat that is in each area. The music shifts, and you're bombarded with enemies spawning out of multicolored orbs. A perceptive player will notice that these orbs are actually fruits, the same fruit that Melora made you out of, so it's clear that Rooney has been pretty busy making a bunch of monsters. They don't tell you about crits in this first combat encounter, but with the way that the big flies and beetle enemies move towards you, keeping their eyes facing you will naturally lead the player to shoot at their critical hit spots, which helps cut down on combat length and teach the player to experiment more in combat in order to try and get themselves out of sticky situations quicker. Immediately after this, you'll find Blue. This NPC can easily be mistaken for other monsters initially, but he doesn't give off any red danger aura on the edges of your screen or attempt to strike first, so the player shouldn't be inclined to attack. By talking to him, he figures out that Melora made you, and he gives you your second weapon, a double-barrel shotgun. This new piece definitely helps chop through these early game enemies. This interaction also incentivizes the player to try and talk to people and pursue their quests to get rewards to help push the player even deeper into the game and flush out their whole arsenal. These aspects help flesh out the core gameplay loop of Frogmonster and teach you exactly what you need to be successful. Let's call them the 3 E's of the game. By exploring, you're able to flesh out your abilities and your build in order to prepare yourself for a variety of situations. By experimenting, you're able to find unique ways to interact with the environment and enemies, making your life easier and combat smoother. And lastly, by engaging with NPCs and the world around you, you get to understand the world better and get rewards you wouldn't have access to if you just ignore them. All of these things tell you exactly what you need to do and know to be successful in the game, without needing to handhold and without too many pop-ups. The artistic direction and design of Frogmonster uses a slightly desaturated color palette for the environments, while still using vibrant colors as great accents for both the enemies and the landscapes, to help lead the eye towards what you need to be seeing as a player. This also gives the keen player rewards by finding hidden items in the environment. You notice the purples, blues, and pinks of Marvin's domain, but did you notice the light blue pegs on the trees? Or the glowing latch of a chest? The art direction gives the game enough space to breathe and be pretty while also letting it be discernible visually. The voxel environments keep the landscapes simple and clean while also lending themselves to make naturalistic and detailed surroundings with small details like falling leaves, vines, differences between minerals, and cracks in the walls and floors. Overall, the art design is really solid, and the choice to build with voxels clearly wasn't made with limitations or lack of ability in mind, since the water still has amazing reflection effects, and blood still splatters on the walls and floors. The music of Frogmonster was originally a sticking point for me. The soundtrack is varied for each of the areas and fitting for the vibes. The boss themes are incredible and give a fun weight to combat while still fitting the silly nature of the game. Some real standout ones for me are Yonoi and Supo's theme, where it adds an extra layer once Supo joins, as well as Bog and Chog's theme, being this ominous, bassy drone fitting of two massive man-eater eels. The only problem I had was that the first couple areas loops were pretty short, which led them to grate on my ears like I was made of sharp cheddar. But after moving through the areas and experiencing some more of the varied songs toward the mid and late game, it becomes more bearable. Overall, the soundtrack is good, with the boss themes being a highlight. I just wish that a couple of the tracks had some longer loops. Another point in the game's favor is the level design. Following in the footsteps of every Metroidvania, the entire world is very interconnected. And even areas early on, like Marvin's Domain, have sections that layer back over and loop around one another. It also has the perfect amount of time spent in each area before getting sick of it. Each level only has a couple dedicated encounters with some extra exploration sprinkled in to make it really feel alive and keep your interest peaked. The levels hit a great stride of exploration and enemy content that when you reach the next area to buy items and upgrades, you can buy a couple or splurge on a big choice. So you can feel free to grind if you're struggling, but it absolutely isn't necessary. It really hits that perfect stride of not being too hard and not being too easy, and being able to get enough stuff so you can flesh out your build more. My first playthrough clocked in at 20 hours for 100%, because I just wanted to keep exploring and find every last metal ore, mana, and health piece. The biggest point that will be a make or break for you as the player will be the combat. This game could be a solid choice for a starter first-person shooter, with its easy mode and easy-to-read appealing art style, but even that aside, it can be gnarly to work through some combat encounters. Even on my second playthrough for this video, there were times that I scraped by encounters with only a sliver of health remaining. With up to 8 guns and 6 different spells you can cast that all give you health back, it leads to this beautiful dance between your health, mana, and bullets that I find very appealing. Being able to choose weapon upgrades once you enter the mid-game, and even more bonuses in the late game, puts a cherry on the whole system and makes it really feel like you can make this toad beast your own. Aside from critical hits as mentioned before, there's also other unique ways the enemies can interact with you, such as body parts that don't take damage, enemies that lay in ambush, enemies that have weaknesses to certain weapons, and even some enemies and bosses in the late game that have completely unique ways of defeating them using their skills. It all gets added on in such a way that they feel like natural developments on one another. My only complaint is that I wish there were even more ways for weapons and abilities to interact with enemies, but there's still some pretty interesting concepts that you won't see in other games. The main attraction that the game touts in its Steam description is the presence of its Souls-like bosses. Ah, wait, that says Souls-like. Oops. Well, we know what you mean, Ben. Either way, these baddies are definitely up there for some of the best FPS bosses I've ever seen. Most shooters struggle in the boss department because most things in our world that take a bullet die after one or two of them. So it's hard to conceive of something that can take a lot of damage, still make sense to the world, and not just be a boring gimmick. The Souls-like element comes from how the bosses loop their movesets and how you time your jumps and dashes to get out of the way of stuff like body slams, laser beams, and extending limbs. Needless to say, Frogmonster knocks it out of the park in their boss department. Dominic Tarasin said it best in his review. It is bananas how most big budget FPS games struggle to have one good boss. Frogmonster has nearly 30, and it's all by one guy. Before we continue talking about the story and go into spoiler territory, if you liked anything you've seen or heard about Frogmonster so far, you should absolutely go buy it. I'm not even going to put any music or visuals over this section. I'm just going to keep telling you to buy it until you do, because I know you haven't played it. Only 3 people have played the game in the last 30 days on Steam charts, and one of them is me, for this video. It's only 20 bucks. You know how much 20 bucks gets you at a fast food joint anymore? Like 1 medium meal combo and maybe a shake. So if you're really in the year of our Lord complaining about it's the price of a movie ticket but not even as long as one, you're being purposefully dense. And I just told you, I spent like 20 hours on my first playthrough, and it has a crap ton of replayability too. Just please go buy it. I'm putting the link in the description right now as I'm writing this point in the script. Alright, let's get back into the story as I experienced it. I'm going to be splicing the story between the essay portions of this video to help pace out the argument a bit more. So if I'm not getting immediately into all of it, just hold on, it'll make sense, trust me. The story is pretty simple, and I covered everything you really need to know from the jump in the tutorial section, so let's just keep going from there. After defeating the first boss, Groth, we're visited by Trench, another NPC who rewards you with money for defeating bosses. And in the post-game, he lets you access the boss rush mode. He's a pretty chill dude, and he has knife arms, so that's pretty rad. As we continue through the aquatic tunnels and come out in Marvin's domain, I want to talk a bit more about genre and why I got thinking about it so much with Frogmonster. One of the many reasons I love this game is because it wears its inspirations right on its sleeve. It adopts many genres into its gameplay in order to make an engaging and great experience. This is pretty similar to what I talked about in my last video with Nubby and the book Steal Like an Artist. So instead of just rehashing points that you've already heard before, I want to talk about why genre is important and how I think we can heal some online discourse by trying to push opinions into a different direction on how we use genre. When we beat Marvin, he realizes that we aren't actually a monster. He apologizes and gives us the dash ability, another core aspect of our moveset going forwards. Going through the very last swamp is a bit of a mess, but at least we saved one of the bakers, and it looks like we're on our way out. Oh god, this guy is nasty. Probably smells like swamp water and mildew. Just gross. Wait, is that another little guy on his back? This is Supo, and he's just kind of a little rascal. He was attacking us, but I don't think he meant too much harm. Plus, he gave us this cool bow, so I think he isn't too bad. Before we get too deep into it, I think it'd be best if we land a solid definition of genre, since I'm going to be throwing it around a lot from here on out. Genre is defined by Oxford Languages to be a category of artistic composition, as in music or literature, categorized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter. It is defined by Merriam-Webster in a very similar manner, a category of artistic, musical, or literary composition characterized by a particular style, form, or content. So one of the three criteria we should be looking for when we need to identify whether or not a game fits a genre is form, the visible shape or configuration of something, style, a distinct appearance typically determined by the principles according to which something is designed, and subject matter, the topic dealt with or the subject represented in a debate, exposition, or a work of art. So with these frames of reference in mind, let's analyze a game and a genre that people apply to it, and then see if the attribution is apt. Pong, a game that practically everyone knows, describes itself on ponggame.org, yes, that is a real website, as a tennis-like. I would say that's a pretty on-the-nose description. Even though compared to the amazing graphical quality of real life, it aims to replicate the game of tennis, which it does so successfully with its low fidelity compared to today's tennis-likes. So its genre can be tennis-like because the subject matter of the game is about tennis. Let's try another genre example. It can also be categorized as an arcade game. This feels like a good genre to call it, since it originates as an arcade cabinet, easily defining it in the arcade genre. This is supported by the form that it takes, an arcade cabinet, and the style of gameplay. It is similar to other simpler arcade titles of the 70s when it was released. So we can see that if we use genre definitions, we can help determine what a game is about. Therefore, if we keep defining these genres and what qualifies them, we can use them to help align every game into a box for itself, so we know what we're getting into when you get into a game. One of the optional bosses is up ahead here, and his name is Placeholder. Hey Ben, if you're watching this video, could you change the name to Seuss? Just a little nod to the Steam description. I think that'd be pretty funny. Anyway, this guy is a nightmare to fight this early. So yeah, let's just come back to this guy later. He peeved me off. Oh, we finally made it to the city. This is a really chill place where we can upgrade a lot of our stuff. Just make sure to go up these steps instead of through this hole here. This goes to the Undercity, which isn't important right now. Melora lets you know that the fast travel system, which are those symbols in those tree holes, have been unlocked. And you should talk to some Bins guy so you can help him by killing a boss, then he can help you by upgrading your weapons. After we do that, I felt the need to go back to Blue and let him know that he doesn't have to swim his way back anymore. Poor guy's been stuck here in the Lost Swamp this whole time. A game that can definitely be considered a first-person shooter is Frogmonster. You maintain a first-person perspective throughout the whole game, and most of the gameplay involves shooting things. So it's fair to say that it fits the bill. Let's look at some of the other genres that Frogmonster calls itself. adventure, Metroidvania, and Souls-like. Well, it definitely fits the bill of an adventure. The quest our amphibious creature goes on is certainly an unusual and exciting, typically hazardous experience or activity. Now, however, we exit the realm of simple-to-define genres. A Metroidvania is defined by Wikipedia as a subgenre of action-adventure games and/or platformers focused on nonlinear exploration and guided progression with a need to acquire key items to enter certain areas. We've already discussed that it is an adventure game, and it certainly fits the bill of action too, and it has platforming as well, so it covers all of those bases. Although the first couple areas are linear, I still think that a majority of the game is non-linear, and even in those earlier areas, you can use key items you are able to get to sequence break, remaking those earlier areas non-linear as well. So with that, we've covered all the bases of Metroidvania, and Frogmonster definitely fits the bill. Lastly, we have the hardest sell to try and define Frogmonster, Souls-like. This is defined as a subgenre of action role-playing games known for their high difficulty level, large worlds filled with enemies, and emphasis on environmental storytelling, typically in a dark fantasy setting. Sometimes Frogmonster can be pretty hard. Bosses in the late game and even the final boss can give you a run for your money. I died to Zethida as many times as I did to the Twin Princes in Dark Souls 3, being in the near 20s on both of my respective first playthroughs. The world is certainly large and filled with enemies. The environmental design shows off things that aren't even mentioned in the text, like how the city area is still mostly abandoned and tattered from Rooney's first attack and dissemination of enemies across the world. It is a fantasy setting, but not a dark one. But the real nail in the coffin is that it doesn't really have any role-playing elements. If anything, it's more Zelda-like, with your upgradable health and mana, and being able to find more weaponry and items to flesh out your toolkit. You know, someone should have really told that Iron Pineapple guy this Souls-like game isn't actually Souls-like. While we're on this point actually, I've got some not sarcastic or pedantic at all points to make, because we're calling too many things the wrong genre, or not including the right genres with the right games. Elden Ring Night Rain has the tag roguelike, but it doesn't have the turn-based combat or grid-based movement of the original Rogue, so it's not actually a roguelike, it's a roguelite. Nubby's Number Factory has the deck building tag, but you don't have any actual cards to build with, you're just arranging items, so we have to get rid of that. Doom the Dark Ages has both the dark fantasy and sci-fi tags. That's pretty contradictory, what's up with that? And it has the cinematic tag, yet most of the actual gameplay, arguably the most important part of a video game if we're going by definitions here, is in the first or third person. There's no Dutch angles or dolly zooms or axial cuts or any hallmarks of actual cinema. While we're at it, we need to add the hack and slash tag to Cyberpunk 2077 because you can perform both hacking and slashing in that game. Okay, I'm gonna stop now because I think you see what I'm getting at here. It's really dang hard to make games fit into genres this way. It just doesn't work. After going up the old road, we find Melora again, who says Rooney is just beyond this locked red gate. Guess I gotta find this key. Ugh, I know a boss arena when I see one. At least this place has some ammo after that hellish little ride. Whew. Finally got the key. Let's go find Rooney and finish this. Before someone comes into the comments to point out my for comedic effect strawman argument, realize that even Googling the words Metroidvania or Souls-like and looking for a definition yields at least 50 other video essays trying to figure out the same exact thing of what the hell these made up words mean, and all coming to slightly different or even very different conclusions. So it's clear that no matter how minute we can get on each individual definition of each individual word, or no matter how many other definitions we can make for a genre, there's always going to be edge cases that we just can't account for. As you can see, it's pretty difficult to find hard and fast rules to help isolate games into categories. So if we can't use genres to exclude or include games to determine what they should be called, let's try it from a whole different angle. I want to introduce you to one of the most vital videos that I found during the script writing portion of this video. Let's Rethink Games, the Belmont Index, is an incredibly insightful video from Dylan Belmont that absolutely blew my mind and put a voice to the words that I have been struggling to put in the script so far. I want to encourage every single person who made it this far in the video to go watch this video right now. I put it in the index card in the corner so you don't have to type anything into the search bar, just click that box in the top right. Dylan raises an amazing point that I haven't really thought of that often. In our current era of gaming culture, where we have so many video games of so many styles and so many genres, we are really shooting ourselves in the foot with how we categorize and rate games. Using a personal example, I think that Cruelty Squad, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask are all 10 out of 10 games, but they're all in very different genres, and I think they're 10 out of 10s for very different reasons, but they're all great games. So maybe instead of rating games on a singular sliding scale that is supposed to mean quality, Dylan instead goes on to propose the Belmont Index for classifying and rating games. This system, instead of just being a sliding scale of good to bad, incorporates a second axis of genre. Again, I don't want to belabor this video with Dylan's fine work. Again, go watch his video instead because it's his great idea. But by adding this secondary sliding scale, he made me realize the most important part about genre that I think we've all really lost the plot on in our discourse. There shouldn't be such arbitrary yet definite rules on what is and what isn't certain things. We're just setting ourselves up for failure by trying to all assume that we're all on the same page with such uncertain terms. Someone's definition of what a Souls-like or a Metroidvania or even an adventure game is will all be different from what someone else's is. It's the nature of our point of views, and that's the beauty of linguistics, trying to understand how we communicate and how our communication evolves. Melora is ecstatic we have the key, and tells us the manor used to belong to some guy named Myzend, who acted as Orcus's opposing creator, who began to get obsessed with bigger and more powerful beasts. But Orcus put a stop to that and sent him down below? Damn, Orcus was lethal. Straight up killed his only equal. Hopefully Melora won't have to do the same to Rooney. Hey, what the... Hey, wait, there he is! Oh, crap. Ah, damn it, we're trapped again. Oh, hey, buddy. Thank God that's over. Wait, maybe this new gun can... Oh, sweet. With my new gun, I bust down the door and finally find Rooney again. I think it's time to give this guy both barrels. Ah, great. Here's a new magic staff from this Myzend guy. Well, let's show him what some real firepower looks like. I don't care if a creation isn't supposed to be the creator. I've got wicked awesome skills, buddy. What do you mean, uh-oh? god, that's Myzant? He just yeeted him, holy shit! Ugh, well great, another wall. I'll save you the pain of making this last third of the game any longer for this review. We've got to beat all this guy's giant monsters that Melora was talking about earlier. You know what, let's just trash these nerds with the power of montage.
Boom, bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow.
Alright, no more games, no more nothing. Let's just finish this. Language evolves and varies from person to person, and since genre is inextricably tied with language, even the same definition will mean different things to different people. I believe this is what makes it fundamentally impossible for us to try and agree on what games should belong to what genres. Instead, I think it's more helpful to view genre as an extra tool to help define us what games can be, just like the way we describe how or why we like movies or TV or any other art form. So revisiting the genres that Frogmonster calls itself and the tags that it has on Steam, I still think these all fit pretty well. I think it definitely fits the bill of adventure, Metroidvania, and even Souls-like. It doesn't have the RPG elements or stamina bar, but it still has bosses and enemies with unique patterns that you need to have time dodges to avoid and use your abilities to activate unique interactions with them to beat certain enemies easier. Even though it isn't 100% perfect, you don't need to be perfect to pass your classes, or do your job, or have fun in your hobbies and passions. I think if we're all a little more forgiving with how we try to describe art and interact with the world around us, we'll be able to find more interesting games and art that we might be inclined to try or view. We've got to let concepts and ideas evolve and change from the descriptors that we originally attribute to them. Because as the world changes, so does our art. And if we're more accepting of how and why the world changes and embrace the melding pot that is new art, we can get more interesting ideas like Frogmonster. Alright, time to lock in. And that was the story of Frogmonster. Kind of basic and seemingly only there to help be a vehicle for the gameplay with fun little character moments. There isn't like a seeming depth of lore that you would get from other Souls-like, but I think it matches up with the quality of direct storytelling that those games give you. So don't come looking for a cinematic epic or a thought-provoking tale that'll really carve into your bones, but instead, just be along for a nice little magic and fun ride. Plus there's some stuff in the post-game too, so you can check that out as well, but you can do that on your own time. Hello, thank you for watching the video. It is very appreciated, especially if you made it all the way to the end. And sorry that I had to name this video something very clickbaity. I figured that, you know, unlike Nubby, this game wouldn't get nearly as many eyes or be nearly as trending in YouTube. So half of the reason is because I want views on the video, and the other half of the reason is because I think this game needs more eyes on it. So if you went all the way through this video and you've gotten to the end here and you still haven't bought it, go wishlist it, go put it on Steam, you know, go buy it. The summer sale is right around the corner at the time of uploading this video. Definitely keep some eyes on it. It's a really cool project, and I think it definitely deserves more love. So yeah, go buy Frogmonster, go make sure to watch Dylan's video. If you haven't, it should still be in the index card in the corner. And thank you so much. Have an awesome day, stay safe, love one another, and yeah, treat yourself with kindness. I don't know why I said that. Okay, bye.
Saladogo. Saladogo.